Hey guys, I know I'm a little late, but I wanted to put together a video of everything I watched this month, and we're going to start off with Nope, directed by Jordan Peele. I thought that it was really good, and then the ending happened, and I was very disappointed. I think that Peele did an amazing job of setting up the alien, building tension, but then when we finally get to see this alien, that's when the movie fell off for me. If you watch the movie, you'll know that there's a TMZ guy that shows up right before the main characters try to fight the alien, and I think that this character should just be cut from the movie altogether. He's the least interesting character in the entire movie, and if we cut him out of the story altogether, basically nothing changes. Removing his character would also make the ending a lot snappier, which would help the pacing issues that the last act had. One good thing I can say about this movie is that I felt like the directing and the performances were all on point. Steven Yeun stole the show for me, and I kind of wish that he was in the movie more. Another good thing that I'll say is I think the chimpanzee subplot was super engaging, and I liked how him and the horse set up the idea that you can't look a predator in the eyes, and then this is going to come back for the alien later, and I just thought that was super cool. Altogether, I thought this was a solid movie that was held back slightly by pacing issues and a pretty mediocre ending. With that, I'm going to go ahead and give Nope a 6.5 out of 10. The next movie I watched this month was Boss Level by Joe Carnahan, and I was not the biggest fan. The concept of the movie is that it's basically Groundhog Day, but if Groundhog Day was a really mediocre action movie and a lot less funny. The only scenes that I really enjoyed were the ones where the main character, Roy, is trying to tell his son that he's actually his father, and then the rest is, it's kind of meh. Before I watched this movie, my brother hyped up this one scene with Mel Gibson where he gives this super stereotypical villain monologue while puffing on a cigar, and then 5 minutes after watching the scene, I had already forgotten every word he said, so I don't know why he was hyping that up so much. I think if this movie had action scenes that stood out, it could have been a really enjoyable movie, but all the fight scenes were pretty by the books and unfortunately really boring. The best thing I can say about this movie is that if you're looking for a movie to just throw on and not pay any attention to, Boss Level would probably be the perfect movie to do that with. So all that being said, I'm going to give Boss Level a 4 out of 10. After that, I watched Being John Malkovich, written by Charlie Kaufman and directed by Spike Jonze, and once again, I was not the biggest fan. This movie has been recommended to me a lot, and I thought that the premise was really interesting, but I just could not get into it at all. This is going to sound crazy, but my biggest problem with this movie is the writing. Multiple characters in this movie will randomly just say, "I love you" to another character, but there is a single point in the movie where this was established. I know that it's a comedy, and you could probably construe these lines as comedic, but I just wasn't seeing that, and it just didn't feel like it was supposed to be played off for comedy. On top of that, I felt like every actor that wasn't named John Malkovich was giving a kind of bad performance. John Cusack is someone I know that is capable of being a good actor, but in this movie, his performance was really off to me. Something about his delivery just seemed weird and unconvincing. While I did find myself laughing on more than one occasion, this movie just wasn't funny enough to make it enjoyable for me. Despite everything I'm saying, I still think this movie is super creative. I thought it was kind of interesting, but for whatever reason, I just could not get into it. So despite its cult classic status, I'm gonna have to give Being John Malkovich a 4.5 out of 10. A couple days later, I watched Smile, directed by Parker Finn, and it was surprisingly really good. When I saw the trailers for this movie, I kind of just wrote it off as another mid-horror movie, but it was getting pretty decent reviews, so I decided to check it out, and I'm glad I did because the ending of the movie is one of the craziest I've seen all year. I will say that I was getting a little bored by the hour-and-a-half mark, but thankfully it picked up right after that. Another minor gripe that I had with this movie is there are a couple times where I felt like the main character was doing the stupidest possible thing that she could have been doing in that situation, but by the end I felt like most of these were written off, so I was kind of okay with it. As far as the positives go, I think most of the acting was pretty good, and I thought the writing was mostly good as well. Other than that, I felt like it was just a good movie with some really cool moments of cinematography and directing sprinkled in. I wasn't blown away, and I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means, but I think it was a strong movie, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Next, I watched Moana, and I liked it, and I don't really have anything else to say about it, so 6 out of 10. The last movie I watched in November was Black Adam, and I gotta say, this is probably one of the worst superhero movies I've seen in a really long time. The only enjoyment I got out of this movie was making fun of it with my brother and trying to predict the next line each character would say. If a dog walked into the writer's room and started scribbling on a piece of paper, I do not think it would be that much worse than the script we got here. Going into this, I heard so many people say that the saving grace of this movie was its action scenes, but clearly these people were on drugs when they said this because the action in this movie is bland, lifeless, and unenjoyable. At the time of me writing this script, I saw this movie less than a week ago, and I cannot remember a single cool or creative action scene in the whole movie. On top of that, it didn't really seem like any of the actors wanted to be here except for The Rock, and I mean, it's The Rock. He's not giving an Oscar performance. To me, the most shocking part about this movie is that someone is still hiring Noah Centineo in 2022. I didn't know that he was still acting at all. But yeah, this movie was not very good, and I'm gonna have to give it a 2 out of 10. So that's what I watched in December. I hope you guys enjoyed working through my backlog with me, and I'll see you guys next month.